Hi everyone, welcome back to Maximum Attack Rallying. First, let's start with an apology because there was no vlog last week. I say it's an apology, it's a little bit of an apology. I was on holiday. If you follow me on socials, you'll have seen that I was in Dubai. I'm not that sorry because I was in Dubai and it was nice. But I just didn't have time to record anything. I hoped I would get 5 minutes to just record something, but it didn't work out that way. So, it is what it is. A couple of things this week. I want to try and keep this fairly short. I am going to try and do a bonus episode early next week, maybe. That will either be on Rally Japan or it'll be some updates to my sim rig, which I'm working on, which I wanted to share. So I don't know which order they'll be in. So one will be Monday or Tuesday, one will be Thursday as usual. Just depends which I get round to doing first. On the subject of Japan, we will start there because Rally Japan has already begun as I record this on Thursday. I'm in the spirit. Look, hold on. Look at that. I've got a t-shirt on with, dear me, don't ever stand up while you're recording a video. Total disaster. I am wearing a t-shirt with a nice S15-200 SX on it. Or Sylvia. It's Japanese. That came from Samit, who's a well-known YouTuber, does drifting. This is one of his cars. So I thought it seemed appropriate. Weirdly, just on that subject, there is a massive drifting event in Japan at Ebisu Circuit this weekend, and loads of YouTubers from all over the world are going to be there. And I just thought to myself, isn't that a coincidence? And I bet none of them have any idea that the WRC is going on. But that's a whole different story. I don't want to talk too long about Japan. It's already started, so we had stage one earlier today. The timing's so confusing because even where I am, the time zone is way out, and I know obviously the UK is 3 hours behind Saudi Arabia right now, so that is weird in itself, but Japan is obviously much further ahead. So for those of us in Europe, watching a lot of this rally is going to be very difficult. But I think there's still some things to be excited about. Thierry Neuville was fastest in shakedown and fastest in the first run through the Toyota Stadium Super Special. I put out in my preview earlier this week that it was going to be a Toyota whitewash. That's looking a bit shaky, isn't it? We'll see what happens. Long way to go. Tomorrow, Friday, is the longest day. 90 odd miles, I think, of stages. I don't know what that is in kilometres. Sorry, my brain's gone mad. 140 kilometres, isn't it, roughly? I had to think about that. So tomorrow's the longest day. There is a service tomorrow lunchtime, but then on Saturday and Sunday, because those are shorter days, there is only a tyre zone. So that could be interesting. Weather is obviously very up and down. If it gets wet and there's leaves and things, which obviously it's autumn in Japan, that could go crazy, couldn't it? So hard to know who's going to win, isn't it? Neuville obviously won last year, and he's going very well already. Evans, I think, was second fastest in shakedown, so there is pace in the Toyota, but weirdly, I think Katsuta was 5th fastest at the Super Special, and he was the fastest Toyota out of 4. So who knows? I'm going to stand by my prediction. Toyota will come through, podium whitewash. They'll be in the top 3 places at least. Who's going to win? OJ's going to win, I think I said. Rovanpera second, Evans third. There you go, there's a prediction. It's probably wrong, but we'll leave it there because I want to get on to another topic, which is FIA related. I wrote something about this earlier in the week, and that is the Rally 5 kit, which I think is a really interesting development, and I think it's something that we should all be paying attention to, so I'm going to explain why. So, Rally, if you're not familiar, a few years ago the FIA decided to adjust things and come up with a rally pyramid. So we did have, it was confusing, wasn't it? We had R1, R2, R3, R4, R5, and then WRC cars. And for some bizarre reason, the FIA decided to reverse that. So it became Rally instead of R, and the number system reversed. So we have Rally 1, which is obviously the hybrid cars, Rally 2, which is what was R5, so the four-wheel drive Fiestas and C3s and Skodas and all that stuff. Then we used to have R4, which was just a total cock-up. So that was what the old Group N cars were put into, and then the FIA came up with this weird system where you could build a car from a kit of parts made by Orica in France. So it was a spec engine and drivetrain. I think it was a Peugeot engine, 1.6 turbo, and you could put it into any body shell you wanted. All the suspension and everything was standardised. And it was stupid. It didn't work. Hardly anyone built one, and it was a complete flop. And they just quietly put it out to pasture, and that was that. Then below that you had R3, which was originally for 2-litre cars, so like the Clio, and then it went up kind of R3T, so C3, Clio again. Again, that never really took off as much as it should. Then you had R2, which for years was 1,600 cars, wasn't it? So Fiesta, Adam, 208, etc. And then below that was R1, which was similar cars, but in less tune. Then obviously we ended up with where we are now, so Rally 1. Rally 2, as I said. Rally 3 is now 4-wheel drive cars that are based on Rally 4 cars, but converted to 4-wheel drive. And then you've got Rally 5, which is the entry level, which is what I want to focus on. So that category, for me, I wasn't the biggest fan of it, because when they changed to Rally 5 from R1, I think they made it too complicated. So an old R1 car under the old system was extremely basic. It was basically a road car. You had fixed rate dampers, no sequential gearboxes, basically standard engines-ish, and the cars were super, super simple, and I'm not going to say cheap, but relatively cheap. Then we went to Rally 5, and suddenly sequential gearboxes were allowed, and a few other bits and pieces, and the cars became 50,000 euros. And unsurprisingly, there aren't very many of them. There is some running in Europe. Renault have a single make championship in France for the Clio, but it's too expensive, and there's only the Clio, Opel Corsa and Ford Fiesta, so not very many. And I think most people just skipped it. They didn't bother. The cars were 50,000 euros, and for an extra 20,000 euros, which I know is a lot of money, but relatively speaking, you could have a Rally 4 car which had another 60, 70 horsepower and better suspension, and it was just a quicker car, and it was just seen as a better step on the ladder. So that brings us to Rally 5. Sorry, Rally 5 Kit. Rally 5 Kit, I should say. So this is, the rules are very similar, but what the FIA have done is introduced some options, and the main, I'll put them in two categories. The first thing is homologation. Everyone's favourite word. So with the homologation for the Rally 5 kit, there is a really significant difference. And that is that now a rally preparation company in Spain or the UK or France or wherever can, anywhere, Japan, Brazil, anywhere, can develop a kit of parts for a Rally 5 car. And they don't have to use the manufacturer to homologate those parts. That is a really, really important distinction, because it takes away the manufacturer connection, and it means we don't have to rely on that manufacturer wanting to homologate that kit of parts. So that is really, really important, because a lot of manufacturers don't want to do that anymore. So I think that's really significant, and for me, opens a lot of doors. The second part of it is technical. I'll put up a little graphic here to cover the technical, so you can get an overview of some of the modifications, because I'm not going to show you the FIA paperwork because it's really boring. Basically what this means is that the technical regulations are largely the same. So the dampers are quite simple. You're not allowed to change lots and lots of parts. The engine has to be standard internally, etc., etc., etc. But things like the gearbox, a sequential is now optional. So you can still homologate a set of a 5-speed gear set for it. So you can have close ratio gears, but you can put that in an H-pattern gearbox if you want. In theory, you could put it into a synchromesh. Wouldn't have to even be a dog engagement gearbox, which would bring costs down. Now, that might mean that your self-homologated Rally 5 car isn't as competitive as a factory Clio, for example. However, it does mean that it will cost a lot less. And I think if you're looking to start a one-make championship, that's a really, really good thing, because it means you can get the cost of the cars down, and the performance relative to a factory Rally 5 car isn't as important, because you're building that car to compete against other cars that are exactly the same. The people that own them can still compete against the Clios and Corsas and whatever, but you can focus on a one-make championship, or you can focus on just competing at national level where the cars aren't quite as important because driver ability might make a much bigger difference. So I think it's a really good concept. It's not perfect because ultimately money will still talk, won't it? The factory cars will probably still be the fastest. But I think from a accessibility point of view and a excuse me, I've had a terrible cold recently, and a cost point of view, it's really good. So as I said, a Rally 5 car, a current Rally 5 car like a Clio, is 50,000 euros ish. The idea is that the kit of parts to build a Rally 5 kit car will be something in the order of 15 to 18,000 euros. So obviously you'll have to buy a base car, but while 15 to 18,000 euros sounds like a lot, if you actually look at it, so back in the 90s, Ford ran a championship for the Ford Ka, and the kit for those cars, the kit, not the car, the kit that you fitted to a car, was I think about £7,000. I think it was £7,500, I want to say. With inflation, that's about £15,000. So it's about, or £13,000, sorry. So that's about the same as the Rally 5 kit is expected to cost. So these cars are no more expensive than the one-make championship cars that we had 25 years ago. The difference is they'll be a lot better, they'll be a lot faster. So I think it's a really interesting development. So I don't want to talk about it for too much longer, because I'm aware of this video being really long and a bit too technical, but essentially what it means, the regulations allow any car with two-wheel drive, up to 2 litres if it's normally aspirated, or up to 1.6 litres if it's turbocharged. Where they've been clever, I think, is that there is a minimum weight range, which is 1,030 kilos to 1,130 kilos, and there is also a turbo restrictor and an inlet restrictor for normally aspirated engines over 170 horsepower. There won't be many of those because most cars are turbocharged now, but so we'll focus on the turbocharged stuff. So the restrictor is between 27.5 and 28.5 millimeters, and there is a table basically, and your engine size and weight and restrictor size are all balanced against each other, because the idea is that every car that is homologated under this system will have around 1 horsepower for every 6 kilos of weight. Is that right? Yeah, that is the right. So yeah, you'll be 1 horsepower per 6 kilos. So even if you start with a slightly heavier car, you can run a slightly smaller restrictor, bigger restrictor, sorry, so you have a bit more power. And if you have a light car, you have to run a smaller restrictor, so you have a bit less power. So in theory, there should be a balance of performance. I hope the FIA monitor that so we don't get one car running away with it. But for me, I think that's quite a clever system, and it should hopefully encourage people to use different cars. There is already one car in the works in Spain, R Technology, R Performance, R Motorsport, something I can't remember now, sorry. A Suzuki Swift Sport. That is expected to be available next year, so that is, I think the Swift Sport is a 1400 turbo now. That is a 3MO sequential. So that's really good. And that got me thinking, just to wrap up this video, what else would you build? What other options are there for a Rally 5 kit? So if you didn't want the Swift, which I'll put a picture of here, what would you choose? And I think there are actually quite a few options. I'm going to get this one out of the way. If you do want a normally aspirated car and you're in Europe, you've basically only got one choice, I think, and that is a Mazda MX-5. So they're 2 litre. You can get 2 litre. You can get 1.5, I think, but I would probably go 2 litre. You'd have to have a restrictor because they're over the 170 horsepower limit to bring it down to, I think they're 180 something, so you'd have to bring it down a little bit. But rear-wheel drive, I think that's a really good car. Really popular, loads of them around. Just to throw this out there, the car does have to be in production. So you can't, we're not going to get Rally 5 kit versions of Novas and Mark II Escorts, which is a good thing, by the way. So yeah, I think a Mazda MX-5 could be really good. I think a single make championship for those would be interesting. That is, as I say, about it for normally aspirated stuff in Europe, I think. That said, in other parts of the world, normally aspirated engines are still a lot more commonplace, so I think that will be helpful for some countries. Another thing that I thought was interesting, I'm just going to give you 3. Hyundai i20N. So this, like the Mazda, is at the top of the engine range, so it's a 1.6 turbo. But I like it because for a one-make championship, I think it would be really good. Hyundai obviously have a big presence in rallying, and while the point is that they don't have to be involved directly, I think a car like that is potentially something that could be marketable for a dealer. So you might get a dealer group interested in sponsoring or being involved with a one-make championship. So I really like that one. I'm cheating because I'm going to give you 4 because I just thought of another one. Which one should we go for? Let's go controversial. There is one controversial one. So, as I just said, the car has to be in production. So that rules out something like the Ford Fiesta. I know there is a Fiesta Rally 5 already, but you could, in theory, I think, homologate a club version independently. But that car isn't in production anymore. It went out of production in July, I think. So there is no Ford, but there kind of is, because you could, in theory, make a Rally 5 Ford Puma. Now, I know some of you will be, oh no, because the Puma is a bit fugly and not the coolest car in the world. But crossovers, as much as I'm not a crossover fan at all, they are really popular. The Puma is the best-selling car in Britain, so maybe there's logic in starting to embrace the crossover thing. Excuse me, so I'm coughing so much still, and bring them into the fold. So Puma, you could do a Puma ST, which is a 1500 turbo. You could do a 1 litre turbo Puma. I know some of you are going to think, oh god, Pumas are horrible. I don't know. I think there's something in it. Crossovers are here to stay, as much as I don't like them. So maybe. And that does bring me to the last one. I went 4. I said 3, but I'm going to do 4 because I think this one is potentially very important. The big thing for me is this initiative is about cost. So we're reducing the cost of the kit of parts to build a car. So for me, as this is very much aimed at national level, regional level, you know, you go to your local ASN, Motorsport UK, the FFSA, whoever it may be, and they will help you with the FIA, with homologating your kit. And it's very much aimed at one make, national kind of level. So cost is very important. So if you can get the cost of the kit of parts down to 15,000 euros, say, in a way, isn't there an appeal to starting with the cheapest car that you possibly can? So I think a really good shout is actually a Dacia Sandero. So you can buy, in the UK at least, it might be different in other countries, you could buy a 1 litre turbo Dacia Sandero. I think it's about 100 horsepower, which isn't amazing, but I'm sure you could get a bit more out of it. And that, as a Rally 5 car, it would tick all the boxes, wouldn't it? You know, it's affordable, much like cars like the Ford Ka that I mentioned earlier, or the Skoda Felicia and things, these budget one-make championships that we had in the 90s. Very affordable. You can buy that car, I think, for about £13,000. So £13,000 plus a 15,000 euro kit, which is about £13,000. You could have a Rally 5 kit car for less than £30,000. You're getting towards 50% of the cost of the factory cars, and that for me is amazing. Yes, you've got to build it, but in theory, with a Rally 5 kit, if you design the kit in the right way, someone could build that car at home, which very much takes us back to the old Group N days and the proper one-make cars, where you could go and buy the car from a dealer, potentially at a discounted rate if you had some backing from the dealers, and build the car at home. Away you go, you know. That to me sounds a really good idea. So that, I think, in a way, is my favourite choice. Not the most glamorous car, I appreciate, but a Skoda Felicia or a Skoda Favourite wasn't the most glamorous car, but it was a really popular one-make rally car. So I think there's benefit in that one. I'm going to leave it there. All I'm going to ask is that you comment below if you can think of something better, because there are loads of cars you could use for this. So I would love to hear your suggestions in the comments. Tell me why my suggestions are rubbish. And I think it's time to end this video. As I said, there's going to be a bonus episode next week. I might start with the Rally Japan review on Monday or Tuesday, and then do the Simrig updates. There has been an update to EA Sports. I was wanting to call it Dirt Rally, but it's not Dirt Rally anymore. EA Sports WRC released an update last week, and I think they've released one today. Last week's update, good news for me, is that my Logitech wheel now has force feedback and my shifter works, so that is great. The update today, Thursday, I think has some graphic improvements and things, so that is worth checking out as well. But we're going to stop there. Keep your eyes out next week for two episodes. I'm not going to do 2 every week because it's too much work, but 2 episodes next week. So we'll end there. Please, as always, like, comment, subscribe, follow, notifications, Instagram, TikTok, X, all that stuff. Follow me everywhere. All of the links should be in the description for this video, and I will catch you again next week for 2 lovely episodes of the vlog.